Hello and welcome to the Jeff Ahern Show. Hope you're all having a phenomenal week. Merry early Christmas to you. I don't know if I'm doing a show next week. I'll assume I am, but we're right on the cusp of Christmas. That's like Christmas Eve day. Heck, I'll do it. Why not? But yeah, so it's been an entertaining week. It's been fun. There's always some crazy news. I just did a story last night. And by the way, let's get the plugs out of the way before I kick things off. Check me out on Rumble. Been very supportive of me. My subscribers are going way up. So thank you to everyone who's joined me there. Also join me, jeffahern.com. Also join me at Patreon under Silas Rothschild. That's what all that keeps me going and afloat. So thank you for everyone that's been doing that. That being said, I just did a story last night on New Orleans, of all places. And I like New Orleans. I mean, I've never not had a good time in New Orleans, usually too good a time. You know, there's always one day where you're recovering from having such a great time. And, but I love New Orleans. I love the muffaladas. I love the beignets. I love the just the insanity. But now the insanity, I haven't been there in probably 10 years, but the insanity has gotten a little too insane. Basically, the progressive liberal mayor there and the policies she's been promoting have crushed the city more than a hurricane could. I mean, at least from the hurricane, after the hurricane's gone, you know, the water dries out and you can rebuild. But progressive policies take a lot longer to recover from. And not only was she elected one term, but she was reelected in 2021, which is shocking to me. Her name's LaToya Cantrell, and they're trying to recall her right now, and with good reason. New Orleans is now the per capita murder capital of the United States. That's right. Now, some people get confused with per capita. It doesn't mean it has the most number of murders. It means it has the most number of murders per 100,000 people, which makes it more dangerous than a place with a bigger population. So that's what it is. It's the most dangerous city in the United States, essentially. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And why? Well, because they're following the progressive liberal playbook a little too aggressively. They're, you know, the low bail, not arresting people who should be arrested. And of course, the time-honored classic from 2020, defunding or trying to defund the police, and in doing so, demoralizing said police force. So New Orleans is at about 60% of where they need to be in terms of officers available to respond to help the community. Right now, and I checked this like 3 times when I did the story. Right now, the response time for a 911 call, average response time, imagine something terrible and it's worse, 2.5 hours. What? You're dead. Unless it's like a flesh wound and you called it in, called the ambulance, you're a goner. And my recommendation is this: if you're in New Orleans and you get shot or stabbed, which based on statistics, extremely probable, call the ambulance, but also order a pizza, because at least the pizza guy will be there in a half hour or less, and he might take you to the hospital. And worst case scenario, you got a pizza to eat while you wait another 2 hours for the ambulance. So that's New Orleans in a nutshell. And so they want to recall her because the city is in shambles, but also because she's not even doing her. I mean, what little job she has, she's not doing. She's very big on traveling first class at taxpayer expense and going to places like the French Riviera. I'm not sure how that's related to New Orleans. I know that they're a sister city to France, but whatever. Doesn't explain going to Switzerland. I don't believe they're a sister city to Switzerland. So she's traveling around first class, taxpayer dime. And meanwhile, the Constitution of New Orleans, or the laws for politicians in New Orleans, explicitly state that if you want to be flying first class, you're going to need to pay for it yourself. The taxpayers are only on the footing the bill for you to fly, coach. You want to upgrade, then you upgrade. Well, she's not doing that. She's flagrantly going against the bylaws of New Orleans, designed to save taxpayers money. And she spent about, at this point, 20% of her term of this year not even in New Orleans. And she doesn't show up for meetings. I mean, she's basically, while New Orleans burned, she's like Nero. She's instead of fiddling, though, she's collecting frequent flyer miles. She tra-la-las across the globe. But it's a case almost like Bill de Blasio, where you have this grossly incompetent person. Last year there were 218 murders. This year they're I think 240 something, which makes it the per capita based on population highest in the country still. So it's not like this is a new thing. I mean, she's been terrible forever. And yet she was reelected. Same thing, Bill de Blasio, horrible mayor, reelected. So as much as, you look at these politicians and you're like, they're terrible. They're ruining the community. And they are. The blame isn't necessarily the politician. They're just doing what you voted them into office to do. This isn't a surprise. She didn't come in as some law and order person. In 2020, she wanted the police to fund it. None of this is new. And yet the residents of New Orleans willingly went out and said, yeah, let's vote for her again. And so here you are. She don't care. She's not even in town probably right now. She's probably on some other trip at taxpayer expense, flying first class. And then of course the race card's always going to come out. So she said, because she knows she's crooked, she said, well, the reason she has to fly first class instead of coach with the rest of us riffraff is that it's for her safety as a Black woman. Because if you thought the Deep South was racist, wait until you get a load of boarding group number 5. They are, and number 6, whoo, off the charts. Is there a number 6? I think there is. I think some have like 7. If you're in boarding group 7, you're just hanging on to the wing at that point. Just leave your bag in the trash. It's not coming with you. You can check it, but they're throwing it out anyways. So that's a whole other story. But so it's insanity to me that not that this is happening in New Orleans, because it's exactly what you would expect would happen based on this woman's leadership, her track record, but that the people of New Orleans reelected her. They said, yeah, let's double down. When you have any common sense, it's beyond frustrating to watch policies and politicians, progressivism, liberalism, wokeness, just crash and burn at every turn. Everywhere you try it, it's just a fireball of misery and ruin. And then to be like, more gas. I don't know how you fix that. So let's say they do recall her, and I'm not even sure they'll recall her, even though she's hardly in the city, even though they're the per capita murder, the city with the highest per capita murder rate in the country, even though their services are crumbling, street light, sanitation, things like that, because she's not watching any of that. She's drinking mimosas on flights to France, and all this is going on, and they probably won't actually have enough votes to recall her. They'll get enough votes to have the recall, I think, but then when push comes to shove, just like Gavin Newsom, we're still stuck with her. and this is telling. Gavin Newsom went on record is saying, "Hey, Joe, shut the border down. We can't handle this." It's when Gavin Newsom says, "Hey, shut the border down," or enforce the laws on the books for the border, which Gavin, you could have some say in. Mr. Sanctuary City. And so when that's happening, things are bad. And now Biden, because this has all been a big voter push, it's all it's ever been. Democrats know their policies are terrible, but yet they keep getting reelected. New Orleans, great example. California, great example. But it's so bad now. They need new voters. They need rubes, people who don't know any better. And so you basically got this situation where it's gotten to the point that even Newsom's like, enough. And Biden wants to make it so that they can vote easier. The newly arrived illegals or minority, whatever you want to call them. They're all coming in and in great number. Wants to make it easier for them to become citizens. So a citizenship test now, he wants multiple choice. So he's doing this is all part of a plan for Democrats to try and up their votes in upcoming elections. All right, Mark's got some questions here. Mark asked about Ted Cruz and his daughter. And Mark, I'm ashamed to say I don't know that story. I bet you it's on CNN though. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Ted Cruz and his daughter. I'm scared to ask. And then you said Ron DeSantis ahead of Trump, though Trump does have again, this is, I'm a DeSantis guy. I'll vote if Trump's running against Biden or whatever. If that's what happens, I'll vote Trump. No problem with that. But I much prefer Ron DeSantis. I just do. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's an amazing leader. I think he's got his head just screwed on right. And I think he's terrific. Now, Trump, your question, Trump about Trump's NFTs or non-fungible whatever tokens, right? I don't get it, but I'm older. Maybe it's like a younger thing. But they apparently, because I just saw a story about it, I didn't read into it too much, but they sold out. Now, again, you're wondering, like, they sold out. Okay. It sounds good at first, but you're like, well, how many did he have? Like, how do you say you sold out? Like, okay, we wanted to sell 5,000, but we sold 100. Let's just say we sold out because we're not really selling anymore. So you're like, you got everything's a grain of salt. But to me, like, I wouldn't buy an NFT of anybody, of anything. It's just like, it's Bitcoin, NFTs, all this stuff is just smoke and mirrors, Vegas style gambling. Maybe you get lucky and you can resell it somewhere down the road, but more likely than not, you're stuck with a virtual beanie baby, this one of Trump. It's really, unless you just like it, which in that case, get it. Yeah. I mean, if you enjoy it, but as an investment, it's just a horrible idea. I mean, I saw that. I'm like, it's concerning to me. It's concerning that Trump is selling these Superman things to him, these NFTs. It's concerning. But I'm a DeSantis guy, man. DeSantis is a killer. I mean, he's articulate. He's right to me, just right where we should be as a country in terms of his ideology, his thought process, what he believes in, what he doesn't believe in, and also in the way he delivers his message. He's just nailed right. He's just spot on for me. So we'll see what happens. More questions here. What do you got? Teenage, is this? Oh my God, you're coming too fast, Mark. Mark's got lots of good questions. His teenage daughter said she disagrees with his views. I assume you're talking about Trump. Teenager. That's not too uncommon. Most kids disagree with their parents. This is Trump's daughter. Oh no, you're talking about Cruz now. So yeah, she's also bi and a cutter. Ugh. And rushed to the hospital last week. Oh wow, I didn't read any of that. Well, that's just awful. And obviously, if she's a cutter and she's got some emotional issues, so I'm not sure how much she'll wait. I'd be giving, her thoughts on anything until she kind of gets her head on straight. So yeah, I feel bad for Cruz and I feel bad for his daughter. And I hope she gets whatever help she needs. And then Harvard elected a black woman president for the first time since 1636. First of all, good for Harvard in 1636. Dear God, that wasn't really that. I mean, geez. Good for Harvard back then. Since 1636, they had a black president in 1636. Wow. Now that's ahead of your time. Good for you, Harvard. Now, as far as the black woman president at Harvard, great. But again, I don't care about the colors of, I don't white woman president, whatever, Asian, bi, let's just hire, and hopefully she is the best person for the job, regardless of race. That's when racism ends. When we just hire people based on ability, on merit. And as long as we're not willing to do that, as long as we're only going to hire based on skin color, whatever skin color that is, we're racist. We've advanced not a step. Whether you're racist white or racist black or Asian or it's still racism. And the fact that Democrats, generally speaking, hire solely, and I feel like in a lot of these cases, on your gender or your how you identify or your race, and will exclude other races, which is just so flagrantly racist, is pretty telling about the party in general. You look at Biden's, I did a story on him, the luggage thief. Biden's, he has like the longest title in the world. He's like the nuclear disposal of rods and this and that guy. But he was hired purely, and I stand by this, purely because he was not only non-binary, but flamboyantly so. They're like, oh my God, we can get this guy in pictures. They're always taking photos of him. He looks like he puts lipstick on with a paint roller, and he just sits there and he's always wearing like some like, I don't know. I don't want to say low cut dress for no reason. I don't think he has any cleavage. And, but he's very flashy. So they love it. Like, look how woke we are. Hey, everybody, did you see this guy? In case you thought we're not woke enough, look over here. Look how woke he is. Look how woke that makes us. Huh? Meanwhile, the guy's a klepto. He's going to airports, Vegas, Minneapolis, not only stealing luggage, but then wearing the clothes in the cases. I mean, I guess they're high-end luggage. I guess he figures he's going to pull some good luggage. One of them had jewelry in it. I think one was worth like $3,500. One was worth like 20 some hundred. And he says, oh, it was an accident, but the video footage clearly shows him looking at the tag, taking the tag off and walking with the thing. So obviously he's a thief. Why did he get the job? Are you telling me there was no one more qualified than that guy for the position he had in the Biden administration? Absolutely not. Must have been every other candidate was probably more qualified. But oh my God, look, think of the pictures we're going to get with this guy. It's pathetic. It's sad. And so when you have no bar other than race or sex, and whatever the race is, whatever the sex is, this is across the board. This is the beautiful thing about ending racism. When you end racism, your skin color is no longer important, whatever skin color that is, or your sexual orientation. It doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is what should matter: the content of your character, your merit. And yet for Democrats, that's a third rail. How do you vote for a party that claims to be against racism and yet engages in the most racist behavior imaginable? Then again, how many times can I shake my head about the left? I don't know. Mark, come on. He said, isn't the opposite of being awoke, or maybe woke, being asleep? Not at all. I mean, being woke is it's not a complimentary term. It's not like you're like hyper aware of everything. I mean, I don't know. Woke to me is just a nice word for to kind of cushion. It sounds better than racism, and that's what woke is. Woke is racism. I don't know. It's not reverse racism, because racism is racism, and it's not just racism against white people, because it's also right now very heavily against Asian people. Because if you've seen they're not too happy with the current situation. They're kind of like sleepers, in a way, the Asian population. I feel like generally they voted Democrat, but at this point they're finding that their kids, when high achieving Asian kids, especially in places like San Francisco, where there's a high Asian population, are now being excluded from these prestigious schools, from prestigious universities like Harvard, which is actually being sued, I think, by an Asian group right now because of their nationality, because of their skin color, essentially, because they do really, really well, but not enough of this group or that group's getting in. So they're going to say, you guys, you did great. If we're going on merit, you get in every time. But since we're going on race, then you don't. And that's why there's a big lawsuit going on with Harvard right now. Racism is wrong, period. And until everybody accepts that, we're screwed. And it's not this a little bit of racism here is okay. This racism against this group's okay. I mean, no, there's no pick and choose. Racism is just wrong. And if you don't think racism is wrong at its base across the board, you're a racist. And I have a problem with you. And I should. Everyone should. Who the hell wants to be around a racist? Make it about merit. You get a resume. The last thing you should be looking at is race. You shouldn't look at it. Should not play any part. If you want to take the sex off the resume, the gender should play no part in it. The only thing that should play a part in it is what you've done in your past job, your qualifications, your merit. And until merit matters again, we're screwed. And merit doesn't matter in so many places because of wokeness. So maybe I would rather be asleep if the alternative is rampant racism. Mark's got lots of good stuff today. Originally, woke was not a conservative term. I don't even know where it came from. I think it's just an easy way to describe idiocy to me. Well, look, Mark must have cut and pasted this because it even pronounces the word. It's a adjective originating in African-American vernacular English, meaning alert to racial prejudice and discrimination. All right, here's my issue with that. Alert to racial prejudice and discrimination. So alert, I feel like, should be changed to looking for a lot of people. I mean, you don't need to be alert for prejudice and racial discrimination. It's pretty obvious. If it's happening, you're going to be like, oh, I'm being racially discriminated. You don't have to be alert for it. But if you're looking for something, when you're looking for something, guess what? You're going to find it. Doesn't matter what you're looking for. I'm looking for a box. Oh, there's a box. I found a box. I'm looking for a painting. Oh, there's a painting. I found a painting. I'm looking for racism. There's some racism. You find what you are looking for. Why don't we look for unity? Why don't we look for inclusiveness, togetherness? And inclusiveness, it doesn't mean giving someone a job because of their skin color. It means just loving your fellow man and encouraging them to be the best. Like, can I say man even anymore? Man or woman? Or, you know, see, this is what I'm talking about. Now I have to like, oh, he's terrible. He didn't use all the genders. All 140 of them or whatever it is now on these San Francisco applications for stuff. It's just... it's just crazy to me. If you look for something, you're going to find it, man. If you look for something, you're going to find it. So why not look for unity? Why not look for a colorless society? But then you'll have, you know, the wokesters who be like, no, you can't. Colorless that's racist. What? No, it's not. What you're doing is racist. You can't call people racist and then engage in the same racist behavior, but just on the other side. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. John Levin's Imagine. Yeah, unity is a good thing. I really think we should get back to unity instead of division. And that's my other big problem. I mean, I used to be a Democrat. God, I was a liberal. Ooh. But then I was like, what the hell am I woke up. I became woke. I woke up. I mean, because it's insanity. The left promotes division. It's their bread and butter. It's how they stay in office. It's how they get elected. They don't want you to look at the conditions of the cities. They don't want you to look at the results of their policies. They want you to hate somebody. They don't care who. As long as somebody hates somebody else, you're too busy hating each other to notice the cesspool that they've created around you. It's a great tactic. It's worked for it seems like forever. And so they're going to continue with it until it stops working. And so they really are the party of division. They are. Everything about the Democrat Party is based on division. It's based on looking for racism. It's based on, I'm a victim. Who can I blame? Who should I be angry at? Who should they be angry at? How long? That's what it is. And they have to do this because they can't stand on anything they've created, because everything they seem to create makes things worse. Defund police, prime example. Why did they do defund police? Because it was a vote getter. They knew they couldn't have not known what was going to happen to especially minority communities, but everybody in general, that when you take away the police and you create a vacuum of law and order, the criminals are going to fill it. And you're going to have more crime. You're going to have more murder. You get more everything. And you're seeing it everywhere. Places that defunded the police are now refunding the police because I don't know how it wasn't obvious before you did it, but it's obvious now. But here's the issue with that. You refund the police. It doesn't matter if you hire 1,000 new cops. It doesn't matter if the cops feel like you don't have their back. If the cops feel like they're going to be pilloried for every time they commit some woke infraction that they're not even aware of, or use someone's wrong pronoun while they're trying to talk to them in a traffic stop, or people feel free to assault them, like, I mean, in New York, Alvin Bragg wanted to, and may have lowered the threshold for assaulting a police officer to like a misdemeanor. I mean, it was crazy. It's crazy. And so it's not just a matter of refunding the police, of hiring more cops. It's a matter of, respecting them. Now, you don't, I'm not like a bad cop. Okay, whatever, you fire them. You want to make it easy to fire bad cops. I'm 100% on board with that. But take a whole group and say they're all bad because a couple of them are. It's absurd. Most law enforcement officers are hardworking and very much care about the community. And to just say, oh, well, they're all the same. Well, that's basically racism, right? But again, the left is the party of racism. Right now it is, for sure. Crazy to me. Defund the police is called bad PR. What? Oh, yeah, police reform. I'm okay with police reform. I don't have a problem with police reform. But that's a dangerous term too. It's kind of like defund the police light. I say you just get rid of the bad cops. You make it easy to get rid of bad cops, and you get the communities that need the police, and really every community, and police together. Again, it goes back to unity, working together to make things better. Well, that's not the Democrat plan. The Democrat plan is to make minority communities hate the police, to vilify them. And even if they're hiring more, they, at the same time as they're hiring them, they're vilifying them for this or that or whatever. And until you bring, the two together, police and the community, you don't have anything. They're still going to be, hitting each other in the head. There'll just be more on this side to throw rocks at. It has to come down to unity. It has to come down to communities working with police, not being antagonistic towards them and finding out how they can make their communities better. To simply make cops the enemy because it's going to get you some votes, well, it'll work. You'll get the votes, sadly, but the communities that'll suffer the most are the communities that need the police the most, and they're no longer there. You'll have a 2.5-hour 911 hold time. You'll have, we're talking about New Orleans again. Well, you have a 60% of the police force there when you need, 100. Or you look at, what is it? I think I want to say Portland. I just did a story on it, but I can't remember. But it'll come to me. But it's the same thing. You've got very low numbers of police right now, lower than you want or need. And those that are there are afraid to do their jobs, because if they do their jobs, they're going to be videotaped and just called racist for doing their job. It's nuts. Yeah, well, I don't agree. I don't disagree with you. Yeah, police hate policing themselves. The blue shield is real. The thin blue line, or whatever it is, where they're protecting each other. But at the same time, if it's a crooked cop, he needs to go, and there should be some way to do that. But this needs to be not an antagonistic relationship between community and police. It needs to be unified. So let's find out what works best for them. That means you got to like each other. Sorry, if you're going to be unified, you got to like each other. Grow up, everybody. It's just it makes me crazy. I mean, I have friends who are cops, and they tell their kids not to tell other kids what they do for a living. I mean, back in the day, a few years ago, your dad was a cop. That was fine. I had lots of friends whose dads were cops growing up. He never made a secret of it. Now you have to make a secret of it. The other kids will start bullying you and picking. I mean, this is where we're at. That's crazy. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right, let me go check. I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about green vehicles a little bit today, because the story is on Fox. Biden turns to country with child slave labor for green energy supplies. And I'll probably do a story on this weekend, put it up on like jeffahern.com and on my Patreon. But I've said this before, and it's not news. Well, it's not new, but this is the Democrat Party. Smoke and mirror environmentalism, smoke and mirror, supposed anti-racism, which they're the most racist party imaginable. And so what's happening is they're getting supplies for their batteries, which they don't get here. And they get them in third world countries, developing nations. In this case, it's Republic of Congo, and I think Zambia. Yeah, but they get them, you get it from everywhere. But these countries use slave labor, basically. And the White House had done a study as recently as October showing that they use slave labor. So these young kids are working 12-hour days, some of them not even being fed. There's no gloves. There's no masks. They're in these mines. They're who knows what the hell's happening to them. They don't care. Whoever's in charge of these mines wants to make their money. They sell it to us, and then we ignore all the horrors that are going on in these countries. I mean, you got liberals with their blood diamonds. Oh, they're so upset. Well, these are blood batteries. There's no difference, just a different product. Why don't you get as outraged about the battery in your Tesla as you do the blood diamond on your finger? It's so, again, it's this hypocrisy of the left. And so you've got a situation where the very elements you need for these green vehicles to be woke, right? To be a good leftist, and I have no problem with electric vehicles, but I damn well don't want one that involves child slave labor. But the left, they turn a blind eye. I don't see nothing. And then what happens to the batteries at the end of the run, right? When you're done with the batteries, they're not non-polluting. You don't throw them in the ground and they grow flowers. They dump them. Where do they dump them? They don't dump them here. They couldn't. It's an environmental catastrophe. They got to dump them in third world countries. Let them deal with the chemical runoff. Let them deal with whatever malfeasance. I don't know if that's the right word. Whatever garbage that's going to be now in their environment. And they don't have to. We don't see it, right? Where does the electricity come from? Generally speaking, still coal-fired plants, but they're over in Appalachia. They're over here. They're over there. We don't see it. We're driving in our look how woke I am driving my clean electric car. Meanwhile, the kids dying in Zambia. There's old batteries being thrown around in Congo, dumped wherever and leaking into the water supply, giving people they don't care. It's all crap. I'm not saying you don't have electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are great. Let them go at a natural pace. Let them go at a free market pace. Get them when you want. Don't jack up our fuel prices here in order to sell more electric vehicles. And for the love of God, don't get your electric car parts or battery parts from countries that employ slave labor and then brag about it. What do you do? It's just nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I mean, I'm just looking at the story. Well documented child labor, and this is coming from not some Republican saying. I mean, dear God, this is UNICEF. This is Amnesty International. They're the ones saying it. The Biden administration, heck, they did a study in October saying the same thing. They're using child labor to get the copper and phosphate and lithium and all these minerals that they need for these electric car batteries. And all you yahoos driving around like, well, I'm in my electric car. You just you don't care. You don't care. Not really. You ignore it. And again, if you want an electric vehicle, get an electric vehicle. Why do they need to go to these countries then when they know this is happening? Because they know if they source it correctly and they're not using child labor, the cost of the batteries will skyrocket. And then they will have to be passed on to the consumer. And then we'll have to jack our gas prices up even more to make an electric vehicle seem remotely affordable by comparison. You're being played. You are. It's nonsense. All right, let me check out CNN real quick. I just like to see, will there be January 6th coverage? I feel like no. I feel like now that the elections are over, it was all propaganda anyway. They don't really care. I mean, they might throw a bone here and there with the January 6th, but I feel like, no, I don't see anything on January 6th. Big surprise. I think they went from like every day, they went from every hour or every minute January 6th coverage to like every half hour to every hour to now to every day to now every other day since the election's over. That's kind of where they're at. Okay, so they're talking about Ukraine, which is nice. They kind of stopped talking about Ukraine so they could cover more January 6th. This is CNN during the election cycle. The missing college student. All right. They found him. He was in Spain. Good for you. Real exciting news here, CNN. Way to cover the news. New report names 5 conditions often misdiagnosed. All right. Wow. That's some light news, CNN. That's some light news. And then a really old video that I've seen many times before that they have on their top banner headline page as if it was new. Watch, in this country, private companies are forced to step up where the government won't. So it's like basically you got your own police force, which is what, that's the nice thing about being a liberal politician is you can say, hey, everybody needs to defund the police. The police are so bad. Please vote for me because I'm trying to get rid of a lot of these horrible police officers. And I sure don't like them. Meanwhile, with your money, they're paying for a private security force because they're not idiots. They know how dangerous the communities are that they're peddling this crap in. They need their own private security. They don't want to get shot. You don't have enough money for it. You're paying for theirs. It's hypocrisy. It's nonstop hypocrisy from the left. And I'm just tired of it. Anyways, that's today's show. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please check me out on jeffahern.com. Check me out on Patreon. Check me out on Rumble. They've been very good to me. And that's it. And thank you to my producer, Mark. Can't talk about producer Mark, who's just always outstanding. And Merry Christmas, everybody. Although hopefully I'll see you Friday, day before, I think next week, right? I think that's the 24th. I don't even know. All right. God bless. Talk to you soon. And Merry Christmas. Bye.
There is a road laid out for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Leading down to the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
What do you think?
I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free, take me down to the river and walk.
How you holding up? Nothing wrong with getting help.
If I promise to look into it, will you drop it and help me build this fence?
Now you need my help.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.